Happy Wednesday. Tonight, as you can see, we're going minimalist. We're being extra cool tonight because the whole country is really cold weather-wise, so I'm trying to go a little minimalist. I'd like to take a big thank you very much, Bill, for being here. And oh yeah, this is Breezy Brownstock. I'm Sherry, and tonight my co-host is Bill, another Browns fan, another are we allowed to say the school up north? Are we allowed to say that? Are we? Oh, look what he did.
For all the
Not.
Ohio State fans.
Which is, what can you do? Um, we love what we love.
That's right.
And
That's
that
right.
is okay. And we are not going to be jerks about it. We're just,
Nope.
everybody has a school they love. And I love that you're
For,
wearing a hockey jersey because that's my
yes.
jam.
Yes.
Even though, of course,
That's college hockey is, I don't think people understand. Again, thank you for having me on. It's been
of
so much fun.
course,
I totally enjoy helping everybody out,
of
especially being on
course,
here. I know I don't always get a chance to see
that
all of them
is
because with
sure.
like
It's a
8 or 9 of
lot.
them, I'm like, okay, what time? I got to go here. My wife
Yes,
and I are trying to watch this, and how's it going to work here?
Eric sending a
Um,
shout out. Eric and Royalton, how
Eric,
you
good to
doing?
see you. So college hockey is probably one of the
Hey,
most
candy corn.
exciting things out there, and it just you don't really have it here. I mean, like it's its own animal, and a lot of people just don't like hockey, which is kind of a shame. And
Ah,
hopefully, maybe it'll get bigger, But
ugh. It gives me agita. Right? Is that Italian agita? Right?
oh man, I don't know. Don't ask me that.
It gives me agita.
I get all verklempt. How about that?
Oh, well,
I'll do that for
verklempt
you.
is when the Florida Panthers follow me on X. That's when I get, oh, I'm verklempt. I called my mother. I called my sister. They could care less. Who cares? I'm happy. That's all that matters. But yes,
That was pretty
but
cool.
yeah, because it's my number one sports team. No offense, Browns, but I've been following the freaking Panthers since I'm a baby bird, and to get them to follow me back. Like I told you earlier, I can now die happy.
It's awesome. That's
Hockey
when
fans.
you get that famous team or person that follows you,
Oh,
and you're like, oh my
Ethan.
gosh, are you kidding
Ethan,
me?
that's
They
a
follow me.
shunda. That's a shunda. In
Oh,
Yiddish,
let's
that
go
means
Habs.
shame. Bill. A
Oh
shunda
man,
is a shame, and what he is doing is a shunda. Get in the corner, Ethan.
he's a Canadians fan. That's okay. That's okay. If he was going to be a Toronto fan, if you're going to be a
Okay.
Maple Leafs fan, I would have felt if I had to pick a fan base in hockey that is very similar to the fan base, and especially what's
Oh,
happened with the
yes.
Browns, I would
Right.
say we and the Maple Leafs are
For
like
sure.
cousins.
Yeah, I feel bad for them. Definitely. Because they are like one of the OG premier teams, and then yeah, they've
Can't
had
make it past
Browns.
the first round if they
They've
make
had
the
Browns
playoffs at
luck,
all. I know they do have Browns luck. That's true.
which is a shame. Also, Ethan, I should say you should be in the penalty box if we're going to keep it
Oh,
hockey kosher.
oh,
It's a
oh.
2-minute minor.
It's a 2 minute. We're not going to call it 5 for fighting. It's just going to be
No, 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 no.
2 for tripping. Got the,
High stick.
got the.
Yeah, and another shame. I've never been to a Monsters game, and I feel very bad about it because it's like maybe 9-10 miles from where I'm sitting, and they have a game I think going on right now, and the miners are exciting.
They are.
You're
You
gonna
get, you
get
get
called, yeah, for instigating. All right, fine, fine.
you get a lot of you can tend to see in the minors, just like in major league, just like in minor league baseball. You
Mhm,
you you tend to see a lot of these guys who are going to be maybe at the parent club.
mhm.
You don't always get that, right? In fact, you get these career minor leaguers that they just love hockey so much they'll stay there till they're
Right.
35, 36. And if they've only had a little taste of the NHL,
Sure.
they still keep playing because there's something about hockey players in the way that they love the sport. I mean, when you look at it, a typical ice time for a hockey player in a
Mhm.
regular NHL game, It's about 12 minutes.
Right. And that's
Their
wild.
shifts are maybe 59 seconds to a minute and 20 seconds, depending on, just a typical average. But for that 1 minute, they are going all out. They just go boom, 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 boom,
Absolutely.
boom. So can you imagine that for football? Already we got so many commercials in there.
Right.
Okay, hey, great. There's a 7-second play. Okay, take a little about a 25-second break here. Another 7-second play. 25-second break here.
Everybody stretch, stay limber, everybody. Who needs lights?
Absolutely.
So, I guess we could shift this back into Browns stuff. Might as well. It's been a nice quiet week, which I've been enjoying, news-wise. I hope you have too when it comes to the Browns, because less Brown stress, the better it is, I think, for the whole, the whole fandom. So
Draft. Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh.
which is sure, which exciting, and for me, like I don't even think of the D word closer until March, just because I like having a break. A hiatus is nice, I think, for everyone's mental health. But some people
Oh
are
Lord,
already
absolutely.
mock draft up the yin yang I'm seeing all over the place on X, and it's been very funny to me. I'm like, it's a little early, but okay. Enjoy the analytics, enjoy the AI. I ain't
Part of me
touching that.
wants to say, when I read some of these, part of me wants to say, get a life. Really, get a life. I don't understand it. I'm like, and that's sadly, I think that's what this organization has done to us, right? They've forced us almost into this. The only thing we have to look forward to is April. The only thing we have to look forward to is May. That's our Super Bowl. Hey, we're done. We're good.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah, like I said, I don't even like to think about it. So let's flash back, Wayne's World style. What led you to become a Browns fan? Have you always lived in Ohio?
Okay.
First of all,
So
let's flash way back.
Gotcha. So we're going to flash back to 1971, 72.
Right? Sweet year for cars.
So, yeah, a lot of other things too, music-wise too.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
That's the first time I ever heard "I Can't Get No Satisfaction," and I was hooked on rock and roll ever since then.
Wonderful.
True story. My parents told me that. So, as a 6-year-old kid, we don't remember a lot of stuff when we were kids.
Of course.
Right? I do remember though the Sundays after Mass, because I'm Catholic.
Of course.
The Sundays after Mass, we had sauce on. We come back. People were coming over to the house, and what did we do? He put the Browns game on. That was it. It was and is such an important religion to so many people. So many people.
Thank you.
In this time,
Sure.
And so I remember when we moved to our new house, we had the antenna up, and then we had this little rotor that you had to turn. And so I would be outside yelling which way it was pointing, and I didn't know I didn't know north, south, east, and west real well, because we just moved to this new place up in Mentor. And I'm like, I don't know. Is it pointing north? I don't know which way is north, Dad. It's that way. Which way?
And you said you were 6, so that's a little difficult to navigate as well. Yeah.
But I remember, in 1972, because of the playoff run, I remember a lot of the times that we would get together as a family. And then even, that's where my fandom started, was in 1972. But it was also that getting together on Sundays, right?
Sure.
Because it was the family that would get or they would come to our house, or we would go to Little Italy and watch the game at my grandmother and grandfather's house. It was either our house or we were going to Little Italy, right, to watch the game. That was it. And you would bring whatever you were going to bring. My grandmother always had her meatballs and her sauce, and then
I am already
jealous and everything else.
Yes.
And so we'd have the radio on in the kitchen so that the women could, while they're making it, they can listen to the game. And then we had the television on, and then there was another smaller television upstairs for those who wanted to watch it, right? But it was just chock full of people. Grab any chair you could. Kids were sitting down. We were sitting in front of the television, about 2 feet away from the screen.
Of course, you needed that.
I remember that, and it had stuck with me, through my elementary and teen years. And then when I went to Miami University down at Oxford,
Wonderful.
We kind of did the same thing. So on Sundays, we had, so this is kind of one of the fun things. I would say the majority of my friends were Cincinnati or Cleveland people, right? So
Okay.
I'm coming from
Sure.
Menor down to Oxford, and then a lot of the men and women I got to be friends with are from here in the Dayton area, or more likely Cincinnati. So we would watch football in different rooms. So, for example, if you were a Cleveland fan
Okay.
and the Browns were the home team, okay, then you got to dictate in your apartment. You would take masking tape and you put
Oh,
masking
wow.
tape down the floor and up the wall as to what side the Browns fans were on and what side the Bengals fans were on. Okay.
Wow.
And then if it was a Cincinnati game, then the Cincinnati folks would do that. So you would, like, you usually would mark off where you couldn't have the bathroom. You had to ask permission to go to the bathroom. A true
Wow.
story. I mean, my buddies will tell you
Jeez.
this. But we had all this food. We'd order pizza, or I would make some stuff, or whatever. And that fandom, we just continued wherever we went. Right. I started working at O'Neill's in Akron. A lot of times I had to work on Sundays. We'd have the game on. Or we would go up to electronics, like, oh, game's on. I was like, oh, wait, I got to call down. I got to go down, come back up here, watch the game, right? And if it wasn't, we were doing something. So, for me, and I think for so many, many people growing up, Sunday and Browns were our religion, right?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just
it was. And it doesn't matter if you're Jewish. It doesn't matter if you're
right.
atheist. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic, Protestant,
Mhm.
whatever. This was what you did. Right. This is
Sure.
what you did. And I think football lends to that because, basketball still has your, 41 home games, right?
Right.
Baseball has your 81 home games, right? And so the seasons are very different. You have
Mhm.
the overlap, but there's just something about it. But what's just so strange is you look back in there. I mean, we can count from we can basically count from 1996 on, 1995 on, how many times we made it to a playoff game on our hands, right? And here we are. We're still 60,000 people going there, even after we
Oh,
know
of
that we're
course.
done. Oh, we're done.
Yes.
We're toast. We're not
So
going to do anything
devout.
this year.
So devout.
It's
Wild.
crazy. So that's kind of how my fandom started,
Oh
and
no. Candy, I don't know
yes,
about
well,
that.
could be, it could be.
Maybe. Maybe.
But that's how it started, and then it became kind of personal for us. So in 1980, my sister was she was sixth grade, and she was diagnosed with basically a cancer,
Oh wow.
uterine cancer. And
Wow.
so one of the things that she was able to do was, Paul McDonald had this, like, Paul's, I don't remember if it was called Paul's Kids or
Mhm.
McDonald's Kids, I can't remember, but he
Mhm.
and his wife would have the kids come on down for training camp, and before games or whatever. And I will never ever say anything bad about Paul McDonald, because he was so gracious with his time and his family, given time for my sister and my dad and my mom, who would, the three of them would go to the to a lot of the training camp stuff, because he always invited a lot of the cancer patients down there.
Wow.
And that's, everyone has that kind of a personal story like that. Like,
Sure.
there's some sort of connection with a player or the
Right.
team, and I mean, there are guys down here, there are men and women down here in the Dayton area that are Browns fans because they were Browns fans before the Bengals were here. Before the Bengals became popular, and
Right.
they will sit here and tell you, I'm going to be a Browns fan forever. Like, I hear you, brother. I hear you,
Yeah,
sister.
that's a beautiful thing that the family did, for your family. I'm sure
Yeah.
that brought about a lot of good memories and good times.
Oh, it did. And then we lost we had a whole bunch of, my sister had a whole bunch of autographs, and we lost them all. Like, oh,
Ah.
Maron, how can we do that? Jeez. All these autographs that we had of players, Charles White, Paul McDonald, and we lost them. Jerry
Yeah.
Shirt, we lost them. Oh my gosh.
I think trying to remember, I have my autographs in like a little sketchbook and two baseball hats, which I do not have anywhere near me at the moment. And I struggle whether or not to, like, do I wear these hats or do I, put them in some sort of case to keep them
Yeah.
fresh. But a lot of the signatures, they're dark gray hats. and they're signed with black Sharpies, so it's a little difficult to make out who signed what. And so I'm like, I don't think it makes a whole bunch of sense to like treat these with kid gloves if I could barely read this stuff myself. And it's nice. I think it's nice whenever the players take the time at training camp to come around and,
Oh yeah,
sign people's stuff. I'm at the point in my life where I'm old and mature. So I don't need signatures. I'd rather, help the little kids try and get signatures.
absolutely.
I know it's way more impactful for them. And I just think it's a lot of fun watching them interact with their favorite players. So that's, I old enough and let the kids have the interaction. And then I just turned into like a 75-year-old, like
Right. I know.
right then and there.
So one of my favorite, I got a lot of great Christmas gifts from my wife over the years, and my boys, as they've gotten older, because I have 4 boys, the youngest being 24, and so one of the things that
Right on,
I
team.
treasure a great deal was a Christmas gift. My son was able to find an Ernest Biner signed 44 jersey.
Oh wow.
I was like, what do I do with it? Do I wear it? do I put it in a shadow box?
What do
Right?
I do?
I don't know. So when they beat Pittsburgh, when they played Pittsburgh and beat
Mm-hmm.
them in the playoffs, I wore that shirt,
Sure.
and I dripped. I had Italian sausage.
Oh,
We had pizza. We had
I
we had
am
all
not
this food, right?
not surprised.
I dripped a little sausage. I dripped a little sausage on the 44. Now it wasn't on his
Okay.
handbrake,
Whew.
and that's when I'm like, okay, I don't think I can wear the shirt
You
anymore
got to
because I
leave
don't.
the sauce there, though. Did you leave the
Well, I know I
sauce or
thought
did you
about
clean
that.
it?
I kind of dabbed at it with a
Okay.
little
Okay.
club soda and coleslaw.
Oh, the oldest trick in the book. Gotcha.
But my boys knew that if I had to pick my favorite Browns player, it would have been it still is, it's Ernest Biner. And I remember when I was a senior at Mentor, and we were like, oh, who's the drafting time and everything else, and I
Mhm.
remember hearing this guy Biner from East Carolina, boom boom boom, Biner. Man, if we
Sure.
can somehow get this guy,
Mhm.
he'd be a great addition. This kid can do everything. And then lo and behold, what, 10th round, I think we get him. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Right. So it's like one of the first guys
Mhm.
that, I'm sitting here going, hey, you know what? I've heard of his name at the collegiate level, and it'd be
Mhm.
great if we can get him. And then we do get him. Right. And I've just been a fan of his ever since he signed a couple books for me, which
Wow.
was just great. But then he's been nowhere anymore on social media, nowhere anymore. And I
Hmm.
think he has, I think Bernie had said this once, that he has really bad CTE, and
Okay.
he's still in Florida. I guess he's still in Florida. Um, but he's just, so when the boys got me that, I was like, guys, this means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. This really means a lot to me. I think everybody can probably sit there and say, who's your favorite player, right? Who's your
Right.
favorite all-time player? Who's your favorite
Mhm.
all-time Browns player?
Mhm.
If I did that for the Indians/Guardians right now, I'd have a really hard time, because there were so
Mhm.
many guys that I just absolutely loved in the 70s. Dwayne Kuiper still is one of my favorite, players of all time. And, he hit one home run his entire career, and now he's perhaps one of the best announcers in baseball besides our Hall of Famer.
Hey, Steve.
um,
Yeah, that
so
is.
it's I think every person, if you ask anyone, sure, if you put something up on X and just say
Mhm.
Instagram, who's your favorite Browns player, you would probably get
Oh
over
yeah.
1,000 people responding. And I'll
Mhm.
bet there'll be like people like, who's Walter Johnson? Like, who's this guy Walter Johnson?
Right.
Greg
Yeah.
Pruitt.
It'll
Who's
be.
Greg Pruitt? Eric Metcalf. There you go. See?
Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
everybody has that one player. And I think now there's so many Nick Chubbs, because I think Nick Chubb is just
Right.
awesome.
Oh
And
man,
then of course
it's
Miles,
hard to
but
pick.
then
Right.
and then
Again, like the
Joe.
faces of the franchise, definitely for the past few years at least, because quarterback limbo and whatnot. So you need strong leader types, and they've stepped up to the plate. No complaints, no nonsense, no shenanigans that we aren't,
I got to say, one of the things that surprised me
Calm
most
down.
about this season was when Miles stepped out and said, "I question what's going on," and I was like, "Thank you." It seemed like every player was not allowed to say anything.
Yes,
You know,
I too miss
uh,
JOK
absolutely.
big time.
We could point to JOK's injury as the beginning of the downfall for this
You know, it's like maybe that's when the dark cloud. Well, I'm not going to talk. We're not going to talk about you know who, but that definitely was such a awful circumstance and not wake up call, but just like I the feeling that I had in my stomach, like I was nauseous, like
Oh yeah,
just because of where the injury was and what potentially could lead to. And I don't want to overthink it, but I also um I was at the draft when he was drafted, so I felt just a teeny tiny like kinship towards
oh
him.
yeah.
Like not just because I was excited that once the Browns pick in the draft, I get to go home because I'm standing here for 3 hours and I'm 75 years old and it's like hot and cold at the same time and my jacket was too warm and I drank a beer and I'm cranky and I want to go home. But they picked JOK and I was like, and if you remember, it was right after the pandemic and very few people could go to the draft and I was shocked and amazed that I was picked to go. And again, being a cranky old person, I was like, this is great until it wasn't. And I was like, yeah, JOK, he's
And
amazing. I'm happy. And
I'm gonna be this will be the only time. This will be the only time I'll say something positive about Andrew Berry. There
okay,
is no way you could not have drafted him. He fell into your lap in that
right.
draft. He dropped from being a potential top 10 pick to
Hmm.
being at the top of the second. There is no way that you don't choose him. There's no way.
Candy, I am sitting on your lawn and I am making lawn angels. I'll get off your lawn, I promise. But oh, yeah, again, like bittersweet with JOK, and I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I do too. It's very strange we haven't heard more. Like even in the ending press conference from Barry, he didn't go into great detail
Talk.
about JOK, and
Which
part of me gets it,
worries me because I
which worries
am
me, right?
a
Which clearly
worrier.
does. I mean, he's still very positive on social media and everything else,
Sure, when he pops on here and there,
right?
it's
When he
always
pops on here and there and stuff,
mhm,
like
mhm.
for Notre Dame too. During the
Yeah,
national championship
right,
game, he was
yeah,
kind of,
mhm. That was
you
nice
know,
to see, he put
yeah,
something out,
that
and
was kind of cool too. But it just,
yeah,
I
I
don't know.
just want the
I,
best for him as a human being because a lot of people forget, like, you're a human being first, then you're an athlete. That's his job. Like,
I
I want him to live a long, happy life without detriment, and yeah, like I said, I worry especially when it comes to neck injuries. Like, I don't know anything about
yeah.
anything, but I just hope he's okay.
You have a bit of you have a great deal more medical background than a lot of people do. You former medical researcher, you.
Yeah, now I'm retired and I get to snow blow. Speaking of which, I saw this is totally unrelated and I have a hard time staying focused, but this is topical because this is the coldest episode that I'm ever going to do, seeing as how it was, what did we just have? Like the coldest day since like 1993 or something crazy like that within the past 24 hours. So I see that you have one of these magic snow shovels that is not a snowblower. What is it called? I saw it
It's
at
a power
Costco.
shovel.
A
It's just
power. See, it has a cool
it's a
name.
it's the Ryobi power shovel.
Oh, okay.
Shameless plug for Ryobi.
Even
So this is a true story. All right, so I'll tell you another story here, right? So last year for Christmas, my family's like, "What do you want?" I'm notorious for waiting to the last minute because it's like I don't want a lot of stuff, right? And I'm like, guys,
sure.
just get stuff for yourselves, get stuff for your mom. That's more
Yeah.
important. If I
Right.
need something, I can get it. But my boys are like, come on, Dad. I'm like, okay, you know what I really need? I said, we had a lot of snow like 2 years ago here in Dayton. And I said, I really would like a power shovel. Nothing fancy. I don't need a snow blower. I got so much stuff in my garage already. I said,
Right.
I want just a power shovel. And they're like, what? And so I sent them this one, that Ryobi has. And they're like, So sure enough, I got it. I'm like, oh, it's great. And of course, I used it like 4 times last year. And already this year, I've used it, I don't know how many times. It's
Countless
wonderful, right?
times.
And I can do 2 large, long driveways on
Wow.
a high power, right? So, I know how much it costs because I sent them the
Of
link
course,
to
yeah.
everything, right? Because they're like, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, here's the link, right? And so my wife was like, why don't you go ahead and get another battery? Like, so you can charge both batteries up and
Yeah,
then you could do some of the neighbors and stuff. Cause I was
sure.
doing a lot of the neighbors,
That's nice.
their driveways too, right? And I'm like, oh, that's not a bad idea. Let me take a look and see. The batteries are as much as the
Yikes. Oh my.
entire shovel with the battery was.
Wow.
I am floored.
Wow.
$149.99
See,
for
I
the
have
rotary battery.
that brand for the weed whacker
Yeah.
and Edger. And I'm familiar with their products, but the batteries, yeah. And you have to buy
There
separate
was one
ones,
that
I
came,
think, for the
they came, one came with it. So my boys were,
okay.
I mean, I don't know how or how they got it. My son was like, yeah, they said you buy this, you get the battery thrown in. I'm like, oh, great.
Mm,
All right.
nice.
Little did I know the battery's about as much as the power shovel was. I'm like,
Wow.
holy cow. But no, I've been a big fan of that. Um, it doesn't blow it right or left. It just kind of blows it straight forward.
Great. Nice.
Um, and I can't go any more than like if it's 8 inches, I got to go like 4 inches and then the other 4 inches, right?
Okay. It's
But I don't have to pick it up. I'm going to be
nice.
60 years old, and it's just one of
Mm,
those. I just
I
wanted
do
to
not believe
push.
you, but
I just wanted to
okay.
push. I just wanted
Yeah.
to push, and it was great.
That's that's me in the
It's awesome.
snowblower. It's like a I want to say a Ferrari. It's a beast. It's Toro. And man, do I feel like I have some sort of power in this world when I get to use that thing
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
shoot snow across like in every direction because I'm a wild woman when it comes to snow blowing. And but yeah, when you said the power shovel, I'm like, I need to learn more about this. And it's topical because in this region and in my home state of Florida,
Yeah,
did
they
you
need
see
it
the
now.
coverage of snow? I it's
So Tallahassee got what, like 7.5 inches.
that
Pensacola got
yeah,
8. Did you see the people
they
in New Orleans who were
playing hockey
riding
on the
the? Oh
streets.
my
Did you see
gosh,
that? I
it was
was
awesome.
it
It
was
was
so
awesome.
crazy.
You see the 2 guys with their the swamp buggy, and they were going on the streets in New Orleans on
No,
their
I'll
swamp
have to
buggy.
find that. That is
Oh, if I
amazing.
find it, I'll forward it to you. Oh my gosh, that was hysterical.
I feel bad for all the critters that are probably kaputski. Like the ecosystems down there are not,
Oh.
you know, able to
Somebody
handle.
said they got snow and then they got rain, right? Maybe that was or
Ooh,
southern Georgia. They were getting snow and then they got rain, and I'm like, oh
wow.
boy. So they
Everything's
must have just been at that,
encapsulated
like
in
that 30
ice.
degrees kind of deal
That's
with a lot
awful.
of moisture in the air. Crazy,
That
man,
is
that's crazy.
wild. Yeah. So 4 boys. Does that mean 4 Browns fans? How's that? Is there a trickle
I
down
don't know.
effect?
I don't
Are
know
they
why they
picking
did
their
that.
own teams?
I don't know why they did that. So I keep telling them every year, I'm like, guys, pick another team. Pick any other team. Just don't
But
pick the
dad.
Steelers. Okay. Don't
Oh,
pick the
right,
Steelers or the Ravens. Any other team because they're
right.
going to break your heart. They're going to break your heart, stomp on it, pour
Oh,
acid
no.
on it. And then one time they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry that I did that. Oh, okay, okay. And then the next year it'll be like, no, no.
Right. Whenever there's that glimmer of hope
Oh my
season,
gosh.
what
Oh
like
my
we
gosh.
experienced, and then the following,
It's
which
crazy. It's
how
it's
does it
it's crazy.
happen?
I keep trying to tell them, you can do a lot of other things than
Mhm.
just you shoot for other teams to root for. But no, they got
It's
hooked.
stuck, it's
They got hooked
stuck.
on when they were young, and we would go up to to go up to visit my parents
Sure.
and mentor. Boom, and what was on Sundays? Football.
The Browns.
Can we
Mhm.
leave at 4 o'clock after the game's over? I'm like, mom and dad have to work the next day. Okay, you know.
That's great.
But it is what it is. It's that part that is entwined in my head. It's part of my DNA.
Mhm, mhm.
And if we'd been born in Youngstown, it would have been Steelers or Browns DNA, right?
Wow, right, I hear
But on
and
the But on the
That
east
still
side, nope.
floors me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know. Isn't that crazy? I have a
Yeah, I
friend who's a
didn't
teacher with
realize
me
that.
down here, and he was born on the east side. He's a Steelers fan, huge, huge,
Wow.
huge Steelers fan. But he's like, hey, this was what it is. My family was from Pittsburgh. They, dad and a couple of the
Mm-hmm.
sisters, they came over in Ohio. They had a job
Mm-hmm.
here in Youngstown. They were working there,
Right.
and we were Steelers fans. He
Yeah,
said we
that's
fit right in with all the
wild.
other people who were also Steelers fans on one side of one side of Youngstown. So that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's just that's
because Florida's, you know how it's shaped.
yeah
Like
yeah
it was difficult to get just the sense of, not to be rude to Ohio, but how small, it is, considering, like I didn't know people from Florida who were other like fans. Well, I just didn't know a lot of people who watched a lot of football. Just that was just my upbringing. But it wouldn't be like they'd be like Georgia fans or like because they
right.
live, So to me, it's very funny to see just even, but then, learning the geography and everything and seeing how close, like Youngstown's like an hour from Pittsburgh. And I'm like, "Ooh, okay, that does make good sense that you would be torn." And because, the Steelers produce this much, versus the Browns not producing much of anything. So I could understand how people would pull toward that team. But absolutely, yeah, still to this day, driving, to see family in the Berg, and you hit around Youngstown, and you're like, huh, it's
Steelers
like
stuff all over the
already
place. What
there.
the hell
It's
is
like
this?
already there.
It's insane.
Wow.
It's crazy. And Cincinnati kind of when they got the Bengals, a lot of my friends,
Hmm.
telling me the same thing. Um, oh, so in answer to Steve, yes, I did go see them once, a couple times at Lakeland. That was kind of fun to go watch at Lakeland. One of the first memories I have, my dad took us to Hiram College to watch um,
Let me leave
when
that
they
up.
were
It's relevant.
when the
Sure.
Browns did their stuff at Hiram. That was great.
Hmm.
That was like really cool. Small college town, like it's
So where is
first
that
time you step
in?
on camp.
Sure. Where is that in regards to this region?
Hiram. So
Yeah.
Hiram is on southwest. Here, hold on a second. Let me get southwest of Cleveland, right?
Okay.
Probably more
Sure.
west, probably between like Finley and Cleveland, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
this is Cleveland, and then I'm on the wrong side here. I forgot my camera's backwards, right? Great. So if this is Cleveland right up here, right,
Sure.
then
Sure.
Hiram's going to be kind of over here.
Okay, awesome. So how long
Yeah,
did
but I
they
mean,
have
it was
training
cool.
camp at Lakeland for?
I just think a couple years, four or
Gotcha.
5 years, I think,
Hmm.
at Lakeland. And it was actually it was easy to get in and out. I mean, Lakeland had,
Ah,
they had the places for the
thank
guys
you,
to stay.
Steve,
The
for the
guys would stay
directions.
in there.
Oh, okay, so they had like dorms and stuff, so they
Yeah,
could just
yeah,
stay. Oh, very
yeah.
nice.
They turned something into dorms because I remember the players were staying right there, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, we would go see them there. It was a lot of fun. Um, but man, what was I talking about before I saw that from Steve? I'm like, oh crap.
Youngstown. We were talking Youngstown and the Steelers.
Oh, I was talking about the Cincinnati fans.
Oh, right, right,
So,
Cincinnati fans.
um, this area was just huge Browns until
Hmm.
Paul Brown came down here and then started the Bengals up. And you can argue and say the Bengals have had more Super Bowl success, albeit not winning, but at least getting there, right?
Sure.
Than we've had. Um, and you see that with like the Reds have that entire. I mean, the Reds have that entire area, but when the Colts moved from Baltimore to Indianapolis, then you started to see that break between them. That
Hmm.
some Bengals fans who are just over into Indiana,
Hmm.
like College Corner, Indiana, or just on the far southern east side, they became Colts fans pretty quickly. So it's the NFL is pretty smart in how they did their you know figuring out Carolina,
Hmm.
Jacksonville.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think Rob Ursay moving from Baltimore though to Indianapolis in many ways was kind of the same thing as Art moving
Hmm.
from Cleveland to Baltimore because you had a whole team pick up to a brand new part in which you really didn't have anything. The
Right.
Bengals had that area, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden now it's like they had to go indie,
Yeah.
and
We're
Washington,
starving
the
for a
Redskins
team.
slash
Hmm.
Commanders
Hmm.
now had to deal with Baltimore, right? So
Right. Then the fan base is split
competition,
up,
man.
and yeah, it's just like anything. And speaking of competition, we're gonna take a quick moment, a break for a word from our sponsors. Thank you, sponsors. Yeah, competition. Wow. Speaking of which, I remember we spoke about, over by me, Notre Dame College being empty.
Yeah,
Still, as much as I poke around and try to talk to, we have, what do they call them? The politicians at large.
yeah,
No answers from anybody except
really,
this whole campus is just and the whole soccer. It was gonna maybe I think you and I we discussed the professional women's soccer team that we didn't get the bid
right,
for. They
right.
ended up I think going to Denver, but that was being proposed as a place to house and practice, and it's a shame because it's weird having a full blown college campus just sitting there empty. It is very eerie, and it just
It's this is the nature, I think, now of colleges just in general, whether it's
hmm
sports related or not. I mean, Ursuline College too is now joining with Gannon University in Pennsylvania, right? I think they're
right.
joining forces, right?
hmm
So you have all of these universities now that are trying to figure out how they're going to, and I think this is all post pandemic. They're trying to figure out
Right.
how they can be relevant. So
hmm
I'm working on an article on the Mid American Conference, and the Mid American Conference is a really interesting um, NCAA conference.
Sure.
It's huge, and it believe it or not. I mean, like when you look at it, it's from a standpoint of the number of undergraduates, it's actually really really large. But when you look at it from a standpoint of what's happening over the past
hmm
5 years, 7 years, I'd say five because of the pandemic,
hmm
you see schools like Western Michigan, Akron, Kent, they've
hmm
seen their numbers drop
Drop.
by, we're
Right.
talking anywhere from 5 to 25% in lost revenues,
It's
and
insane.
some even higher than that. Like I think Eastern Michigan is I got to look. I think it's 30%. So you have all these colleges trying to figure out how are we going to exist, and then you have NIL on top of that, right?
Which is not helping the overall
No,
situation
it's
in
it's
any way
it's not helping a lot
whatsoever.
of stuff. But what's happening is you're seeing that they're the bigger schools like Ohio State,
hmm
Tennessee,
hmm
Georgia. The big schools are getting those kids who used to go to Miami or Kent State or
hmm
Bowling
hmm
Green or Western Michigan, and now they're going to, it's like Michigan's kind of opening up a little bit more, and Michigan
Right.
State's opening up a little bit more, and Ohio State, and you have these bigger name schools that are getting a lot of these kids. And then the other thing is the kids who used to go to Western or
hmm
Miami or Bowling
hmm
Green or Kent, they're now going to Sinclair's, they're now going to the Lakelands, they're now going to
Wow.
the um, Cincinnati State, the 2 year community colleges, which are serving a purpose for these kids to get a good education and be
Right.
very inexpensive for them. And so and no one's going to do anything about it, right?
Of course.
Because no one knows what, number one, no one knows what to do about it.
Yeah,
Everybody
because
wants the same slice of the
this
pie.
is
It's just that
fairly like unprecedented. This is, I
it
think,
is. It's a strange time, and I feel bad for Notre Dame College. I mean,
it is. Oh
um,
man.
I've had students who went to play soccer there, and
Well,
they love the place, and football there. They
I
love the
can't
place.
remember because every now and then I look up his name. He was a wasn't he a pitcher for the Indians? And he's still one of the. He was on the council trying to save the school, and I can't believe I forgot his name. Um, and they had a group of
Hmm.
people just that had that were wealthy and were gonna just buy the school and do something with it, and then like between the bank and or the trustees there was a lot of fighting, and it's still all tied up, and yeah, it's just sitting there.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and I
I
don't
I didn't
even
know
think
about
the
the former.
local I don't even think the local government could even do anything about it because there's so
Oh,
much privatized and money involved. So it's weird. And
we went from um, Governor Rhodes, who said, "I want to have a college or university within what was I think it was 50 miles, less than an hour drive from
mhm,
anywhere in the state, right?" And
mhm,
so, but one of the last colleges to open was what, Wright State University here in Dayton, right? I think. And so you have all these schools here in Ohio, and you're like, man, how are they going to keep existing the way they are? It's just they're trying to make their way. They're trying to figure out where their stand is going to be,
mhm,
and it's tough. It's tough for these places to figure that out. And it's the sports then that I feel bad about for the
mhm.
students who decide, hey, I want to go here. I want to go to Walsh College so I can play soccer.
Right.
I want to go to Walsh College so I can play basketball. Right. I'm just picking Walsh because they're out of Canton. Right.
Sure.
I want to go to Mount Union in Alliance. Like, oh man, that would be awesome because it's a great campus.
Yeah, and
Beautiful
apparently
campus.
Notre Dame College had more sport. It had the most sports programs in the whole state, and that's part of the reason why it went under because it was
Wow.
biting off way more than it could chew with that. Len Barker is the name of
Oh, really?
the
Lenny Barker's?
yeah,
Wow, I didn't
and
know that.
he's on the board of trustees with a few other people who, did well and again in limbo. And he did some coaching. He did coaching over there and stuff. And
Wow. I did not know Lenny was one of them. Did
yeah,
not know that.
yeah. And I should remember
Wow.
his name because that's a great name.
Yeah, yeah. And it has big history here in Cleveland with the last no-hitter perfect game. I mean, that was a night
Yeah,
we were at. If we go back to that one, quick
sure. Go
aside.
ahead. I
My
mean, it's
dad, my
topical.
dad and
Tell
I were
me
going to
about
go to
Len
that game.
Barker.
We were going to go to that game that he pitched the no-hitter. I think it was a Friday. And my dad had a rough day he had a rough day, a rough week at work. And he's like,
Oh
man,
no.
he goes, I just want to, can we just watch the game? I'm like, yeah, you bet, Dad, sure. And it
Oh.
was a game in which I was actually, I was doing scoring. I was keeping
Oh,
score at
that's
home.
so cool. That is
And what did I
amazing.
do? It's another one of the great things. I lost it. I
Oh
lost the whole thing that I
no.
kept score with. Oh my God. I just careless but I mean, that was, Barker has a place in history that is, you know,
Yeah, and I just
no one's going to match it, at least until we have somebody who's going to throw a no hitter for us. So that's not going to happen. I don't think.
understandable. But yeah,
Maybe
no,
Beebs will be able to get us a no hitter when he gets back to being healthy.
that
Maybe Bybee will be, but it's so hard to get pitchers to go past the sixth inning in Major League Baseball, man.
candy.
That's great.
That's funny. Yeah, so it is interesting. So tell me how did well, I guess this is a stupid question, but your Indians fandom, again, family, was your dad big into baseball and then or is this something you discovered on your own? Indians?
So, as
Like
a
I
kid,
said,
I played
I'm
baseball.
a
I
baseball idiot, so
I
anything
played baseball, Sherry, when I mean, that's the first, one of the first things I remember doing was playing baseball, right? We used to play in
sure.
the street. We'd play in the backyard. We had a village green in Menor. And so we'd play there. Like we'd get there, 8 o'clock in the morning. We're all sitting there. We'd play about noon, go have lunch, come back, and then we'd keep playing until it was dinner time or until it was too dark to see, right? Just kept playing. That was it. And I loved that team, even though they were so pathetically bad. I mean, they
Oh,
were
okay.
just so bad for so many years, right? Um, the one year we get Brett Butler in the mid '80s, and we start on like this 10-game winning streak. We're in first place, like, oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing in the world. Like I don't remember the last time. We're always like in third place or last place.
Mhm.
That's the way it was in the '70s. It was a third or last place, and but to sit there and just go to that cavernous, god awful stadium to watch one of the greatest games ever. And if you had that damn seat that would block by and in football and Browns fans know this too. At the old stadium, they had the posts that were
Oh
there, and they had
no.
seats that were behind the posts. So
Wow.
if you had a seat behind there, you're like,
And
I
you
mean,
had to pay
you
just
wear
as
the pin
much
the whole
money.
time. Oh hell yeah!
Wow.
Oh hell
Okay.
yeah!
Okay.
But I mean, it was you. They used to have these picnic tables behind the outfield that if you paid a certain amount, you can have a picnic back there. Like, oh my gosh,
70s
and
uniform.
exactly, the uniforms were great. That bright red uniform,
That's pretty
that was
cool.
awesome. But I would argue the uniforms that like Grady Sizemore had
Oh
when they
yeah.
had we had the sleeveless button down with Chief Wahoo. That's like one of the best uniforms
Oh
that
man.
the Indians had,
I
right?
feel
And
like I
now the
missed
Guardians
out.
have. I do like the C now. There are some things I like, but it is the worst. It really is a bad logo.
The
I
little
mean,
ball with the wings.
it's just not.
It
It's
reminds me
just
of
not
Harry
good.
Potter.
And the snitch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
no, you're
first thing
right.
that comes to mind. I
Sure,
don't
you're absolutely
understand
right.
if they were gonna speaking from like an aesthetic standpoint, why not just use the guardians of transportation because their faces are so serious and tough and that bridge is so iconic and cool. That's, so awesome. And then we get stuck with the snitch, which I don't know who thought that was a great idea. And I'm still coming around to it, but it's nice the block C is around still, I guess. And I don't understand why didn't they just move to call them the tribe? Because people still call them the tribe, right? So I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah,
It's just so strange. It's been hard for me to. I
stomach
don't
it.
have this with me. Maybe the next time I ever get on your show, I will bring
Of
it out.
course.
It is a lighted Chief Wahoo.
Oh,
It's like a
that is
neon light Chief
awesome.
Wahoo. It is
That
like the
is so
crazy.
cool.
A friend of mine gave it to me. She said, "Here, my dad had this." She's from Cleveland, and she's like,
Okay.
I can't do this team anymore." And I said, "Okay, I
Oh,
understand."
a lot of
And she
people
goes,
broke
"Here,
up with the team. Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah." But she gave me this, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "I got to be careful. I can't put this in my classroom. This is just not. I
Yeah.
can't do that.
A lot of
Um,
people still
I
call
got to
the
find it."
stadium the Jake,
Oh yeah.
which why not?
It's hard to call it progressive field, right? It really is.
Well,
Jacobs
yeah.
Field was great. The layout is great. The sight
Mhm.
lines are fantastic. I will say, I will give them credit. I do think that the way that they made the changes last year, I think are really cool. I think that was one of the big things that got more fans there. I do think
I have a stupid
having the
question. Tell
stand
me. So
rails.
that's
Yeah,
one
go
of
ahead.
the changes that they made. What were the changes that they made? Stupid
Well, the big
question.
one is the right field stand. So you don't sit at all, right?
Okay,
And
sure.
and really, I think Major League Baseball got this from most of the MLS, the Major League Soccer clubs,
Mhm.
because most of Major League Soccer clubs do this,
Mhm.
right? So FC Cincinnati, they have their area. Okay, they call it the
Sure.
Bailey, and
Hmm,
it's stand only, and you have the places for your drink, but you stand the whole
that's
time.
cool.
You know,
Okay.
and then the Crew has the same thing, the Nordecki,
Hmm.
which is the same thing. And so
Mhm.
I think Major
Yeah.
League, and specifically, I think the Guardians grabbed that and said, "Hey, that's kind of an interesting idea," and they were able to sell like the smaller
Mhm.
packages, and
Okay.
that went crazy. That went crazy. They did do some rearrangement of the seats too, and how the seats were kind of shifted so that everybody had like a better view of the field, which I thought was pretty smart.
That is a good idea.
You had some changes that were done in I think left field too, or around the left field line. Um, so I tip my hat to them. I mean, the fact that they had a good team this year, I think it surprised all of us. Think,
It
oh, we got a
was
new manager. Come on, how's Vogt going to
how
do?
great he wow.
Yeah. And
That is
considering all the injuries we had to the pitching staff, you're like, how did he
yeah.
do what he was able to do? Yeah, the $50 a month.
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's
and
like nothing, right? And
right and
how
and
many
but you
games does that get you to? Like the whole
I don't
month
know. That's a good
or
question, Steve. Do you know that? I don't know
yeah,
that.
Steve, how many games
I
do
don't
you
know
get
that.
for that month?
But I thought that was a great idea, and
Mhm.
and I think as much as we all want to sit there and say, oh, the Dolans are cheap, blah 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 blah, I can't
Mhm.
believe this, and they're not going to spend the money and everything else, and part of me gets it, but we've got a minority owner now. He's supposed to take full ownership in what 2026. I mean, he already owns what the the 76ers and the
Oh,
Flyers,
right.
Philadelphia Flyers, right? I think the 76ers and the Flyers, I
Oh,
think.
okay. So the whole
Yeah.
month. Nice.
Yeah, for $50, I know.
That's pretty
And
sweet.
you the drinks. My
And you
cousin
could
and his
bring your
wife go there,
snacks
love it.
in too, right? I've heard that you could bring in snacks if you so feel fit into that stadium as opposed to, you can't
It's
do that
still,
with the
that
regular.
stadium is that stadium is still iconic. They've had to make some changes, but I mean, you compare that stadium to Huntington Bank Field. Well, there's that, and you have.
I
I don't get me wrong. The NFL has screwed the Browns over by giving them only 11 months to get ready. I
sure.
get all that. Fact is really. There you
Sure.
go. And even like if you go to other ballparks, Great American Ballpark for the
Mhm.
Reds. Oh my gosh, that's a cool ballpark. That is a cool ballpark.
I've been
And the
to
food and the beer. It's the
PNC.
food and the
Oh,
beer.
okay.
Yeah, the food
Food
and
and
the
the
beer
beer.
are that's a big deal. Food, the beer, and
Mhm.
being able to have more day games. I mean, I know the Reds have a bunch of day games. They don't sell out the day games, but I mean they have their businesswoman special, right?
Ooh.
And they have more of those than we do. I mean, we just
Huh.
love this 7 o'clock at night for everything. Like,
Hmm.
I guess they have to have some sort of studies that say, hey, we get most people to come to the games at 7 o'clock at night, so we're
After.
just gonna.
Interesting.
I don't know.
That is, yeah, it
But
doesn't
I
really.
mean, they had a really almost a record year for them in terms of number of people showing up.
It
Can't
seemed
argue
that
with
way.
that. But now you got to get money in. Major League Baseball is so messed up right now. I mean, it's the Dodgers and the Yankees, and
Right.
nobody else is going to want to pay money. That's just it. I mean, my God, the Dodgers their payroll is going to be like $400 million. They're
Wow.
already over the amount where they have to kind of reimburse everybody, but they don't care. They're like, who cares?
Wow.
And it's all because they have an amazing local network and the money that generated from it. The Guardians and the Reds don't. That
Mm.
that is one of the biggest problems. But Major League Baseball doesn't give a crap. They don't give a crap about that. So
Yeah, that is
you're not going to see
strange.
the parity like you do with the NFL. Like the
Mhm.
NFL, you can be competitive the next year. I don't know
Sure.
why we're not. We keep making mistakes. We're not like other teams like the Commanders and stuff like that.
Wow, the Commanders.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's kind of interesting to watch the three owners of our professional teams, right? It's very interesting to see how everything works. And
It
you got
is.
one owner
I
who will
just
be
like
like,
watch like
"Here's
that.
a Dan Gilbert. Here's a blank check. What do you need? Go ahead. Here you go.
Right?
Go ahead. What do you need?"
Yes.
Right? And then you got Dolan like, "Well, I'm not quite sure about that right now. I can only pay like 5 cents." And then you have Jimmy,
Priorities.
who's like,
Oh,
Jimmy will sign it. Who you got? You want to? Yeah, we'll give him $230 million. Guarantee it.
yes.
We'll
He
guarantee it.
has
How
that
about that? Okay,
gigantic
great idea. All
checkbook. I
right.
feel like it's the size of ones that they have at the lottery, like those big,
Yeah,
massive
yeah,
checks that people take pictures with. And
yeah.
for whatever reason, that just makes me laugh when I think of him in his massive checkbook running around,
I
coming up
know.
with
Every
ideas
time I
and
see a
such.
check like that, I think of Happy Gilmore. Think of the
Oh,
Happy
yeah.
Gilmore. I every time I see that, can I catch this? It's like
Yeah.
one of my favorite lines. But I mean, I being a Cleveland fan, good God, we're mental. We're
Well,
mental.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like we would maybe get I was hoping we could get, like, a good deal on group therapy, but I don't know, like, who else would wanna join me with that because it's good or we could just, like, scream at each other in a maybe more so less hostile environment than on X, but I guess that's just um the arena it's become. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Carry gluttons for punishment, sure. And like you said, just like any church, we'll show up every Sunday,
yeah.
like it or not. But I always go into every year very calm for 10 minutes and positive, always positive, and hope that the glimmer of hope for the season kind of sticks.
I think this year, I think a lot of fans are gonna. I think a lot of fans are tired of losing. Right? They see other teams that can be bad one year and come,
Mhm.
like the Lions right now. Right?
Oh,
So
man.
I think
Wow.
we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see fans be more
Mhm.
questioning and like, you got to win me over. Like, you
Yeah.
know what? I've been a fan.
'Cause
I give
we
them all my money.
show
You for
up.
God
That's
knows.
just it. Like, us
You know,
season ticket
you got to
holders,
prove it to
we
me.
show up like, sheep to the slaughter. We just go.
I know.
We pay our money.
And
They get
it's
our
hard earned
money, and we
money.
just well,
Personal seat
right.
license too.
We just didn't.
You do all that. And it's
Yeah.
frustrating. It's
So
frustrating.
frustrating.
I feel like, it's, we all have to at some point say, hello, my name is Bill and I'm a Browns fan. Hi,
Well,
Bill.
right. Yeah, exactly. We're definitely addicts, and they're our drug, and I just wish that they'd cut us a little slack here and there.
Not going to happen. No one's going to cut us any slack. The NFL officials don't. The only team they cut slack for is the Chiefs.
Yeah, just like Candy
That's the
said,
only team.
the Chiefs, they're sweethearts. Yeah.
I don't know. I hope the Bills can beat them this weekend. That would be just
That's
wonderful.
gonna be
I
such a fun game to watch, hopefully.
yeah,
I hope.
I
I'm
know. Part of me
scared.
wants to be like, I don't want to watch. I don't want to give the NFL
Yeah,
anymore.
me
But then
too.
I'll be like, oh, what time's it on?
I know, me too. I'm like,
I'll,
oh, I gotta
I'll be
gotta
there.
change my day around to make sure I'm
Yeah.
home to sit and watch this. And but yeah, again,
And then looking at the looking at the NFC, and you got the Eagles and the Commanders. Like, oh, great.
that's gonna
Like,
be. Oh man, I. Which game do you think is gonna be better?
um, I think the Eagles Commanders are going to be, because they
Yeah, I'm
played.
with you
Did they
too.
play week 15 or week 16? I think they played.
Yeah, not that long ago.
I think they played. Let me double check here. I think they
Sure.
played sometime like back in December, and the Commanders won. Right, like the first game they
Right.
played, the Eagles won, but then the second game was like high scoring, 36-33, something like that.
Yeah,
And
it's gonna be a
I think that's what it's going to be
slugfest.
again. Now, Buffalo and Kansas City. I don't know.
Not
Kansas
sure
City
what
has
way.
been,
They've been fairly meh this
yeah.
season. They've
Well,
been. That's the only word I could think of to describe. They haven't blown anybody away. They haven't done anything overly spectacular to win.
no, but see here, they have injuries on their offensive line, and yet
Right.
the offensive line, they're able to move guys around. They've taken their right guard in Joe Tooney and put him at
Mhm.
left tackle. And
And
people be like, "Oh, you can't move a guy from the right side of the line to the left side. Guard to tackle." Well, Tooney's done it. He's been fantastic with it.
mhm.
You know,
And you see
and
Kareem Hunt running in, getting
right,
touchdowns.
right.
I'm like,
Yeah, see, that's another thing with Andrew Barry. Like, like I'm the smartest person, and I'm playing chess, and all the rest of you guys are playing checkers. Yeah, you're playing chess, but you're losing all the time. And Kareem Hunt should have been,
I
there were three
would have
mistakes that we
held
made.
on to him. I
There
know
were three
nothing about
mistakes that we
nothing, but
made.
I would have held on to him.
He was one of the mistakes that I would argue that Barry made by not figuring out a way to sign him, because we already knew that we were going to be down Chubb.
Mhm, mhm.
And so, what are we going to do? Let's be cheap and sign Devontae Smith. It's whatever, right? That's the first thing. Second thing that he screwed up with was we had 3 offensive linemen have to go in for knee surgeries in the
Right.
offseason. And who did we sign? We got Zach Center in the draft.
Mhm,
I think
mhm,
Zach from Michigan is going to be a good
mhm.
player. I
I
think he
agree.
struggled kind of,
Well, he was
getting
brand new.
acclimated
I
to the.
mean,
Yeah, he
I'd
was,
give him
and
the
he was coming off a
pretty.
major
Yeah.
injury too.
Right.
So you can argue and say we
Nobody.
had 4 offensive linemen that had
Mhm.
major injuries, knee injuries. And what do we do? What did Barry do? Nothing. He did not address that really at all, other than maybe scrap heap and stuff like that, right? And then really the third thing was, I cannot believe, and I'm not even going to go with who. We said we
Mhm.
weren't going to talk.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Mm-mm.
go with the fact that I thought the defense, who was bringing everybody back, was the biggest disappointment. How in the world can you be so bad after bringing every guy back and everyone
Mhm.
was healthy up until JOK went down?
Mhm.
And you see the miscommunications that
Right.
that is, because I think the plan was, let's have the defense hold tight, win us some games, maybe go
Right.
2-2, maybe go
Mhm.
3-2 into the break, right? And instead we go 1-4, and that was the easiest part of our schedule. And then and then
Yeah,
everything
that
just
was
fell apart, right? Everything just
big
fell
time.
apart.
It
So,
was
but that's all on Barry. That's my, and then Can you name a sports organization that is worse than the Browns in public relations? I can't. They have got to be the worst professional organization, and they have the worst PR department.
And
It is.
that's,
They're the
I
worst.
mean, there's so many kids graduating from all these universities that we were speaking about with these PR degrees. Why not hire a couple of them and get them in there and
I
engage, and
I
hold
I
better
don't know.
press conferences when
I've
doing.
never seen. I mean, the whole debacle with who's signing. You
Yes.
know, when even when and the craziest thing was when everything went down. Those many years ago.
Hmm.
Who was it that had to deal with it? It was Stefanski.
Hmm.
And Kevin had no idea how to answer it. And that was a total drop of the ball by Barry and by Haslam. They should have been the two out there. And it wasn't until like 3 days later when it did roll, when it was getting out of control, then
Right.
Haslam and Barry came in to start answering. That should never have been Kevin's job right out of the chute.
Right. I mean, he's the
And
coach.
but
He's not
this team was
PR.
a
He's the
PR
coach.
nightmare. They didn't know how to handle the OBJ stuff. They didn't know how to
Right.
handle this. They didn't know how to handle the injury for um, Baker. I mean,
And they broke up with Baker like essentially through a text message. That was pretty.
yeah. Well, this goes to show you, Sherry, they are the absolute worst public relations
Huh. This
professional
is an
organization.
interesting,
I
thought
really can't. I
experiment.
can't come up with another example. I really, really can't. I probably can. I guess if I really thought about it, I can probably come up with like maybe the Oakland A's. Okay, there we go.
Oh,
Look at
sure.
the Oakland A's. There's one that's pretty bad too. Knowing that, hey, I'm not going to do anything for this club because I'm hoping to move to Las Vegas. And you don't move to Las Vegas. It's like,
Yikes.
oh boy, we got a problem here. But no, it's just pathetic. It's a shame. Hey,
Well, I
get,
know,
I
I know it's a school night. I don't want to keep you up too late, and we've been here for an hour, and I
holy
appreciate
cow.
all the time that you have dedicated to doing this with me. So I think
Thank
we're
you,
at a
Sherry.
good stopping point, especially because school night, and I need you to have some of this pep for your students,
My
keeping the
3 cups of
minds of the
coffee help.
youths.
My 3 cups of coffee and math will help.
Oh, good.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I want again give you a big, big thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate everything you've expressed, you've shared, you've taught. I feel slightly less baseball stupid and am excited about the $50 standing tickets. That's pretty neat. Um, I wanted to say this is a production of Fans First Sports Network, a division of the Fanatical Elves. And as much as we, you know, gently or not so gently tease our Cleveland football team, we do enjoy you for the most part, Browns. And I'm going to give a Go Browns with my beverage of choice tonight. And let's see. Yes, everybody, please stay warm.
Absolutely.
Enjoy your snow removal apparatuses, as we do.
Apparati.
Apparati. And have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you
Sherry. Bye,
so
everybody.
much. Good night, everybody.